Hello, welcome back to another Monday story time with me, Beth. I hope that you are all doing well today. So, for the last few weeks, I've been reading The Last Wish. Today, I'm going to carry on reading that for you. So, we are on the lesser evil, number 3. The Golden Court, the country town's elegant inn, was crowded and noisy. The guests, locals and visitors, were mostly engaged in activities typical for their nation or profession. Serious merchants argued with dwarfs over the price of goods and credit interest. Less serious merchants pinched the backsides of the girls carrying beer, cabbage and beans. Local nitwits pretended to be well informed. Harlots were trying to please those who had money, while discouraging those who had none. Carters and fishermen drank as if there were no tomorrow. Some seamen were singing a song which celebrated the ocean waves, the courage of captains and the graces of mermaids, the latter graphically and in considerable detail. "Exert your memory, friend," Caldemine said to her innkeeper. Leaning across the counter in order to be heard over the din, 6 men and a wench, all dressed in black leather, studded with silver in Novogradian style. "I saw them at the turnpike. Are they staying here or at the tuna fish?" The innkeeper wrinkled his bulging forehead and wiped a tankard on his striped apron. "Here, Alderman," he said finally. "They say they've come for the market, but they all carry swords, even the woman. Dressed, as you said, in black." "Well," the alderman nodded. "Where are they now? I don't see them here." "In the lesser alcove. They paid in gold." "I'll go in alone," said Geralt. "There's no point in making this an official affair in front of them all, at least for the time being. I'll bring her here." "Maybe that's best. But be careful. I don't want any trouble." "I'll be careful." The seaman's song, judging by the growing intensity of his obscene words, was reaching its grand finale. Geralt drew aside the curtain, stiff and sticky with dirt, which hid the entrance to the alcove. 6 men were seated at the table. Shrike wasn't with them. "What do you want?" yelled the man who noticed him first. He was balding, and his face was disfigured by a scar which ran across his left eyebrow, the bridge of his nose, and his right cheek. "I want to see Shrike." 2 identical figures stood up, identical, motionless faces and fair, dishevelled, shoulder-length hair, identical tight-fitting black outfits glistening with ornaments. And with identical movements, the twins took identical swords from the bench. "Keep calm, Veer. Sit down, Nimir," said the man with the scar, leaning his elbows on the table. "Who'd you say you want to see, brother? Who's Shrike?" "You know very well who I mean." "Who's this, then?" asked a half-naked athlete, sweaty, girded crosswise with belts, and wearing spiked pads on his forearms. "Do you know him, Norhorn?" "No," said the man with the scar. "It's some albino," giggled a slim, dark-haired man sitting next to Nohorn. Delicate features, enormous black eyes, and pointed ears betrayed him to be half-blood elf. "Albino mutant freak of nature. And this sort of thing is allowed to enter pubs among decent people?" "I've seen him somewhere before," said a stocky, weather-beaten man with a plait, measuring Geralt with an evil look in his narrowed eyes. "It doesn't matter where you've seen him, Tavik," said Nohorn. "Listen here, Sivril. Insulted you terribly a moment ago. Aren't you going to challenge him? It's such a boring evening." "No," said the Witcher calmly. "And me? If I pour this fish soup over your head, are you going to challenge me?" cackled the man sitting naked to the waist. "Keep calm, 15, said Norhorn. "He said no. That means no, for the time being." "Well, brother, say what you have to say and clear out. You've got one chance to clear out on your own. You don't take it, The attendants will carry you out. I don't have anything to say to you. I want to see Shrike, Renfrey. Do you hear that, boys? Nohorn looked around at his companions. He wants to see Renfrey. And may I know why? No. Nohorn raised his head and looked at the twins as they took a step forward, the silver clasps on their high boots jangling. I know, the man with the plait said suddenly. I know where I've seen him now. What's that you're mumbling, Tavik? In front of the alderman's house. He brought some dragon into trade, a cross between a spider and a crocodile. People were saying he's a witcher. And what's a witcher? 15 asked. Eh, Sifril? A hired magician, said the half-elf. A conjurer for a fistful of silver. I told you, a freak of nature. An insult to human and divine laws. They ought to be burned, the likes of him. We don't like magicians, screeched Tavik, not taking his narrowed eyes off Geralt. It seems to me, Sivril, that we're going to have more work in this hole than we thought. There's more than one of them here, and everyone knows they stick together. Birds of a feather. The half-breed smiled maliciously. To think the likes of you walk the earth. Who spawned you freaks? A bit more tolerance, if you please, said Geralt calmly. As they see, your mother must have wandered off through the forest alone often enough to give you good reason to wonder where you came from yourself. Possibly, answered the half-elf, a smile not leaving his face. But at least I knew my mother. You witches can't say that much about yourselves. Geralt grew a little pale and tightened his lips. Nohorn, noticing it, laughed out loud. Well, brother, you can't let an insult like that go by. That thing you have on your back looks like a sword. So, are you going to go outside with Sivril? The evening is so boring. The Witcher didn't react. Shitty coward, snorted Tavik. What did he say about Sivril's mother? Nohorn continued monotonously, resting his chin on his clasped hands. Something extremely nasty, as I understood it. That she was an easy lay or something. Hey, 15, is it right to listen to some straggler insulting a companion's mother? And mother, you son of a bitch, is scared. 15 got up willingly, undid his sword, and threw it on the table. He stuck his chest out, adjusted the pad spiked with silver studs on his shoulders, spat, and took a step forward. If you've got any doubts, said Nohorn, then 15 is challenging you to a fist fight. I told you they'd carry you out of here. Make room. 15 moved closer and raised his fists. Geralt put his hand on the hilt of his sword. Careful, he said. One more step and you'll be looking for your hand on the floor. Nohorn and Tavik leapt up, grabbing their swords. The silent twins drew their identical movements. 15 stepped back. Only Sivril didn't move. What's going on here, damn it? Can't I leave you alone for a minute? Geralt turned round very slowly and looked into the eyes the colour of the sea. She was almost as tall as him. She wore her straw-coloured hair unevenly cut just below the ears. She stood with one hand on the door, wearing a tight velvet jacket clasped with a decorated belt. Her skirt was uneven, asymmetrical, reaching down to her calf on the left side, and on the right revealing a strong thigh above a boot made of elk's leather. On her left side she carried a sword. On her right, a dagger with a huge ruby set in its pommel. Lost your voices? He's a witcher, mumbled Nohorn. So what? He wanted to talk to you. So what? He's a sorcerer, 15 roared. We don't like sorcerers, snarled Tavik. Take it easy, boys, said the girl. He wants to talk to me. That's no crime. You carry on having a good time and no trouble. Tomorrow's market day. Surely you don't want your pranks to disrupt the market. Such an important event in the life of this pleasant town. A quiet, nasty giggle reverberated in the silence which fell. Sivril, still sprawled out carelessly on the bench, was laughing. "Come on, Renfrey," chuckled the half-blood. "Important event!" "Shut up, Sivril. Immediately." Sivril stopped laughing. Immediately. Garrett wasn't surprised. There was something very strange in Renfrey's voice. Something associated with the red reflection of fire on blades, the wailing of people being murdered, the whinnying of horses and the smell of blood. Others must also have had similar associations. Even Taddick's weather-beaten face grew pale. "Well, Whitehair," Renfrey broke the silence, "let's go into the larger room. Let's join the alderman you came with. He wants to talk to me too, no doubt." At the sight of them, Calderman, who was sitting waiting at the counter, broke off his quiet conversation with the innkeeper, straightened himself, and folded his arms across his chest. "Listen, young lady," he said severely, not wasting time with vain or niceties. "I know from this Witcher of Rivia here what brings you to Blaviken. Apparently you bear a grudge against our wizard." "Maybe. What of it?" asked Renfrey quietly, in an equally brusque tone. "Only that there are tribunals to deal with grudges like that. He who wants revenge, a grudge-using seal here in Arcadia, is considered a common bandit. And also, that either of you get out of Blaviken early in the morning with your black companions, or I throw you into prison, how do you say it, Geralt? Preventatively. Exactly. Understood, young lady?" Renfrey reached into the purse on her belt and pulled out a parchment which had been folded several times. "Read this, Alderman, if you're literate, and don't call me young lady." Calderman took the parchment, spent a long time reading it, then without a word gave it to Geralt. "To my regents, vassals, and freemen subjects," the Witcher reads out loud, "to all and sundry, I proclaim that Renfrey, the Princess of Creden, remains in our service and is well seen by us. Whoever dares maltreat her will incur our wrath. Alden King." Maltreat is not spelt like that, but the seal appears authentic. "Because it is authentic," said Renfrey, snatching the parchment from him. "It was affixed by Alden, our merciful lord. That's why I don't advise you maltreat me. Irrespective of how you spell it, the consequences for you will be lamentable. You're not, honourable alderman, going to put me in prison, or call me young lady. I haven't infringed any law, for the time being. If you infringe even by an inch," Calderman looked as if he wanted to spit, "I'll throw you in the dungeon, together with this piece of paper. I swear on all the gods, young lady. Come on, Geralt." "With you, Witcher," Renfrey touched Geralt's shoulder, "I'd still like a word." "Don't be late for supper," the alderman threw over his shoulder, "or Le Boucher will be furious." "I won't." Geralt leant against the counter, fiddling with the wolf's head medallion hanging around his neck. He looked into the girl's blue-green eyes. "I've heard about you," she said. "You're Geralt, the white-haired Witcher from Rivia. Is Stregobor your friend?" "No." "That makes things easier." "Not much. Don't expect me to look on peacefully." Renfrey's eyes narrowed. "Stregobor dies tomorrow," she said quietly, brushing the unevenly cut hair off her forehead. "It would be the lesser evil if he died alone. If he did, yes. But in fact, before Stregobor dies, several other people will die too. I don't see any other possibility." "Several, Witcher, is putting it mildly. You need more than words to frighten me, Shrike." "Don't call me Shrike. I don't like it. The point is, I see other possibilities. It will be worth talking it over. But Le Boucher is waiting." "Is she pretty, this Le Boucher?" "Is that all you had to say to me?" "No, but you should go. Le Boucher is waiting." 4. There was someone in his little attic room. Geralt knew it before he even reached the door, sensing it through the barely perceptible vibration of his medallion. He blew out the oil lamp which had lit his path up the stairs, pulled the dagger from his boot, slipped it into the back of his belt, and pressed the door handle. The room was dark, but not for a witcher. He was deliberately slow in crossing the threshold. He closed the door carefully behind him. The next second he dived at the person sitting on his bed, crushed them into the linen, forced his forearm under their chin, and reached for his dagger. He didn't pull it out. Something wasn't right. "Not a bad start," she said in a muffled voice, lying motionless beneath him. "I expected something like this, but I didn't think we'd both be in bed so quickly. Take your hand from my throat, please." "It's you." "It's me. Now, there are two possibilities. The first, you get off me and we talk. The second, we stay in this position, in which case I'd like to take my boots off at least." The Witcher released the girl, who sighed, sat up, and adjusted her hair and skirt. "Light the candle," she said. "I can't see in the dark, unlike you, and I like to see who I'm talking to." She approached the table, tall, slim, agile, and sat down, stretching out her long legs in her high boots. She wasn't carrying any visible weapons. "Have you got anything to drink here?" "No." "Then it's a good thing I brought something." She laughed, placing a travelling wineskin and two leather tumblers on the table. "It's nearly midnight," said Geralt coldly. "Shall we come to the point?" "In a minute. Here, have a drink. Here's to you, Geralt." "Likewise, Shrike." "My name's Renfrey, damn it." She raised her head. I'll permit you to omit my royal title, but stop calling me Shrike." "Be quiet, or you'll wake the whole house. Am I finally going to learn why you crept in here through the window?" "You're slow-witted, Witcher. I want to save Blaviken from the slaughter. I crawled over the rooftops like a she-cat in March in order to talk to you about it. Appreciate it." "I do," said Geralt, "except that I don't know what talk can achieve. The situation's clear. Stregobor is in his tower, and you'd have to lay siege to it in order to get to him. If you do that, your letter of safe conduct won't help you. Odin won't defend you if you openly break the law. The Alderman's guards, the whole of Blaviken will stand against you." "The whole of Blaviken would regret standing up to me," Renfrew smiled, revealing a predator's white teeth. "Did you take a look at my boys? They know their trade, I assure you. Can you imagine what would happen in a fight between them and those dim-wit guards who keep tripping over their own halberds? Do you imagine I would stand by and watch a fight like that? I'm staying at the Alderman's, as you can see. If the need arises, I should stand at his side." "I have no doubt." Renfrew grew serious. "That you will. But you will probably be alone, as the rest will cower in the cellars. No warrior in the world would match 7 swordsmen. So, Whitehair, let's stop threatening each other. As I said, slaughter and bloodshed can be avoided. There are 2 people who can prevent it." "I'm all ears." "One," said Renfrew, "is Stregobor himself. He leaves his tower voluntarily. I take him to a deserted spot, and Blaviken sinks back into blissful apathy and forgets the whole affair. Stregobor may seem crazy, but he's not that crazy. Who knows, Witcher? Who knows? Some arguments can't be denied, like Tridem Ultimatum. I plan to present it to the sorcerer." "What is it, this ultimatum?" "That's my sweet secret." "As you wish, but I doubt it will be effective. Stregobor's teeth chatter when he speaks of you. An ultimatum which would persuade him to voluntarily surrender himself into your beautiful hands would have to be pretty good. So who's the other person? Let me guess. I wonder how sharp you are, Whitehair." "It's you, Renfrew. You'll reveal a truly princely, what am I saying, royal magnanimity, and renounce your revenge. Have I guessed?" Renfrew threw back her head and laughed, covering her mouth with her hand. Then she grew silent and fixed her shining eyes on the Witcher. "Geralt," she said, "I used to be a princess. I had everything I could dream of. servants at my beck and call, dress, shoes, cambric knickers, jewels and trinkets, ponies, goldfish in a pond, dolls, and dolls' houses bigger than this room. That was my life until Stregobor and that whore raider ordered a huntsman to butcher me in the forest and bring my heart and liver back. Lovely, don't you think? No, I'm pleased you evaded the huntsman, Renfrey. Like shit I did. He took pity on me and let me go, after the son of the bitch raped me and robbed me. Geralt, fiddling with his medallion, looked her straight in the eyes. She didn't lower hers. That was the end of the princess, she continued. The dress grew torn, the cambric grew drubby, and there was dirt, hunger, stench, stink and abuse. Selling myself to any old bum for a bowl of soup or a roof over my head. Do you know what my hair was like? Silk, and it reached a good foot below my hips. I had it cut right to the scalp with sheep shears when I caught lice. It's never grown back properly. She was silent for a moment, idly brushing the uneven strands of hair from her forehead. I stole rather than starved to death. I killed to avoid being killed myself. I was locked in prisons which stank of urine, never knowing if they would hang me in the morning or just flog me and release me. All through it, all my stepmother and your sorcerer were hard on my heels, with their poisons and assassins and spells. And you want me to wield my magnanimity, to forgive him royally, to tear his head off royally first. Arida and Stregobor tried to poison you with an apple seasoned with nightshade. I was saved by a gnome, and in a mectic I thought I would turn my insides out, but I survived. Was that one of the 7 gnomes? Renfrey, pouring wine, froze, holding the wineskin over the tumbler. Ah, she said. You do know a lot about me. Yes. Do you have something against gnomes or humanoids? They were better to me than most people. No, not that it's your business. Stregobor and Arida hunted me like a wild animal as long as they could, until I became the hunter. Arida died in her own bed. She was lucky I didn't get to her earlier. I had a special plan for her, and now I've got one for the sorcerer. Do you think he deserves to die? I'm no judge. I'm a witcher. You are. I said that there were 2 people who could prevent the bloodshed in Blaviken. The second is you. The sorcerer will let you into the tower. You could kill him. Renfrey, said Geralt calmly, did you fall from the roof onto your head on your way into my room? Are you a witcher, or aren't you, damn it? They say you killed a Kikimora and brought it here on a donkey to get a price for it. Stregobor is worse than the Kikimora. It's just a mindless beast which kills because that's how God's made it. Stregobor is a brute, a true monster. Bring him to me on a donkey, and I won't begrudge you any sum you care to mention. I'm not a hired thug, Shrike. You're not, she agreed with a smile. She leant back on the stool and crossed her legs on the table without the slightest effort to cover her thighs with her skirt. You're a witcher, a defender of people from evil, and evil is the steel and fire which will cause devastation here if we fight each other. Don't you think I'm proposing a lesser evil, a better solution? Even for that son of a bitch Stregobor. You can kill him mercifully, with one thrust. He'll die without knowing it, and I guarantee him quite the reverse. Geralt remained silent. Renfrey stretched, raising her arms. I understand your hesitation, she said, but I need an answer now. Do you know why Stregobor and the king's wife wanted to kill you? Renfrey straightened abruptly and took her legs off the table. It's obvious, she snarled. I'm heir to the throne. Arada's children were born out of wedlock and don't have any right to... No. Renfrey lowered her head, but only for a moment. Her eyes flashed. Fine. I'm supposed to be cursed, contaminated in my mother's womb. I'm supposed to be... Yes. A monster. And are you? For a fleeting moment she looked helpless, shattered, and very sad. I don't know, Geralt, she whispered, and then her features hardened again. Because how am I to know, damn it? When I cut my finger, I bleed. I bleed every month too. I get bellyache when I overeat, and a hangover when I get drunk. When I'm happy, I sing, and I swear when I'm sad. When I hate someone, I kill them. And when... But enough of this. Your answer, Witcher. My answer is no. You remember what I said? She asked after a moment's silence. There are offers you can't refuse. The consequences are so terrible, and this is one of them. Think it over. I have thought carefully, and my suggestion was as serious. Renfrew was silent for some time, fiddling with a string of pearls wound 3 times around her shapely neck, before flailing teasingly between her breasts, the curves just visible through the slit in her jacket. Geralt, she said, did Stregobor ask you to kill me? Yes, he believed it was the lesser evil. Can I believe you refused him, as you have me? You can. Why? Because I don't believe in a lesser evil. Renfrew smiled faintly, an ugly grimace in the yellow candlelight. You don't believe in it, you say? Well, you're right in a way. Only evil and greater evil exist, and beyond them, in the shadows lurks true evil. True evil, Geralt, is something you can barely imagine. Even if you believe, nothing can still surprise you. And sometimes true evil seizes you by the throat and demands that you choose between it and another, a slightly lesser evil. What's your goal here, Renfrew? Nothing. I've had a bit to drink and I'm philosophizing. I'm looking for general truths, and I've found one. Lesser evil exists, but we can't choose them. Only true evil can force us to such a choice, whether we like it or not. Maybe I've not had enough to drink, the Witcher smiled sourly. And in the meantime, midnight's passed, the way it does. Let's speak plainly. You're not going to kill Stregobor and Blaviken, because I'm not going to let you. I'm not going to let it come to the slaughter here. So for a second time, renounce your revenge, prove to him, to everyone, that you are not an inhumane and bloodthirsty monster, prove he has done you great harm through his mistake. For a moment Renfrew watched the Witch's medallion spilling as he twisted the chain. And if I tell you, Witcher, that I can never forgive Stregobor, nor renounce my revenge, then I admit that he is right. Is that it? I'd be proving that I am a monster, cursed by the gods. You know, when I was still new to this, like a freeman took me in. He took a fancy to me, even though I found him repellent. So every time he wanted to fuck me, he had to beat me so hard I could barely move, even the following day. One morning, I rose while it was still dark and slashed his throat with a scythe. I wasn't yet as skilled as I am now, and a knife seemed too small. And as I listened to him gurgle and choke, watched him kicking and flailing, I felt the marks left by his feet and fists fade, and I felt oh so great, that I left him, whistling sprightly, feeling so joyful, so happy, and it's the same each time. If it wasn't, who'd waste time on revenge? Renfrew, said Geralt, whatever your motives, you're not going to leave here joyful and happy, but you'll leave here alive, early tomorrow morning, as the alderman ordered. You're not going to kill Stregobor in Blaviken. Renfrew's eyes glistened in the candlelight, reflecting the flame. The pearls glowed in the slit of her jacket. The wolf medallion spinning around on its chain sparkled. I pity you, she said slowly, gazing at the medallion. You claim a lesser evil doesn't exist. You're standing on a flagstone, running with blood. Alone, and so very alone because you can't choose. But you had to, and you'll never know. You'll never be sure if you were right. And your reward will be a stoning and a bad word. I pity you. And you? Asked the Witcher quietly, almost in a whisper. I can't choose either. What are you? I am what I am. Where are you? I'm cold. Renfrew! Geralt squeezed the medallion tightly in his hands. She tossed her head as if waking up, and blinked several times, surprised. For a brief moment, she looked frightened. "You've won," she said sharply. "You win, Witcher. Tomorrow morning I'll leave Blaviken and never return to this rotten town. Never. Now pass me the wineskin." Her usual derisive smile returned as she put her empty tumbler back on the table. "Geralt, I'm here." "That bloody roof is steep. I'd prefer to leave at dawn than fall and hurt myself in the dark. I'm a princess, and my body's delicate. I can feel a pea under a mattress, as long as it's not well stuffed with straw, obviously. How about it?" Renfrew, Geralt smiled despite himself. "Is that really befitting of a princess?" "What do you know about princesses, damn it? I've lived as one and the joy of it being able to do what you like. Do I have to tell you straight out what I want?" Geralt, still smiling, didn't reply. "I can't believe you don't find me attractive," Renfrew grimaced. "Are you afraid you'll meet the Freeman's sticky fate? Eh, white hair? I haven't got anything sharp on me. Have a look for yourself." She put her legs on his knees. "Pull my boots off. A high boot is the best place to hide a knife." Barefoot, she got up, tore at the buckle of her belt. "I'm not hiding anything here either. Or here, as you can see. Put that bloody candle out." Outside in the darkness, a cat yelled. "Renfrew?" "What?" "Is this cambric?" "Of course it is, damn it. Am I a princess or not?" And that is where we are going to leave it for today. I hope you are all enjoying The Last Witch so far, and I hope to see you all next week where we will carry on. See you all later.